Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, with this video I'm going to be tackling something a little different. Instead of the Mazda, we're going to be looking at 1999 Honda Accord. The problem with this car is, oh boy, it's a list, but the most pressing problem is that we believe that the thermostat, which is located just here, is blocked. It's stuck in the closed position, so coolant is not reaching to the radiator to be cooled, so we're having an overheating problem. So I'm going to jump in with this and see if we can deal with that. Again, this is not really a tutorial as such. It's just something to inspire you guys, you know, to say, hey, look, with some basic tools and a little knowledge, you too can go out there and, you know, just repair your car yourself, okay? Or whatever. It might be a computer, plumbing, whatever. With some basic tools and some interest, you can get the job done, okay? Now, what was happening, what led me to diagnose that the thermostat was the issue, is that the engine was hot, but the radiator was cold to the touch, okay? So that's a sign that there's no coolant flowing from the engine to the radiator. And when that happens, one of the things you want to look for is to see if your thermostat is in fact damaged, or, you know, it's old and it's stuck in a closed position. Okay, as the coolant warms up, the heat from the coolant causes the thermostat to open and cause coolant to flow into the radiator. See, the reason for that is that you don't want the coolant flowing to the radiator all the time, because that way the engine itself might run too cool, and then that has its own problems for emissions and all type of things. So this is something that you know, in the old days people used to just take out. That is for cold, that's for cold country. But in these cars nowadays, these computer controlled cars, they require the engine to be at a particular temperature as close as possible so that it can function at its optimum. Okay, so let's jump right into this and see if we can knock this out real quick. Okay, so guys, the first thing we want to do is to remove the battery. Otherwise, whatever tools we use might impact the positive terminal here, and we might get an electric shock, or we might even start a fire. So we want to get this out of the way, so we're going to remove this. Okay, we always want to start by removing the negative terminal first. Reason being, if we try to remove the positive terminal first and then we accidentally hit something that's metal, that could cause current to flow. We could get an electric shock, and we might also cause a fire. So we want to start with a negative terminal, and of course the negative terminal is usually one, as you can see here with this one, it's bolted to the frame. Okay, so you don't want to rely on these colors, because as you can see, this is faded, it's, you know, it may be torn off. But to know which terminal is the negative terminal, look to see which one of them goes to the frame of the vehicle. Of course, that's assuming that it's a negative ground car, which majority of cars nowadays are. And of course, your workshop manual should tell you. If not, hit the internet and somebody will be able to tell you. But this is a Japanese car, it's a modern car, relatively modern. So all right, so what we're doing here, we're using a 13mm spanner, and that should get us along the way. Okay. So our negative terminal is disconnected, so we can go ahead now and safely disconnect the positive. Now, for some reason, this battery is not strapped down. It will just come right out. Okay, so now we have a lot of working space. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to remove some of these plugs here. They're just going to be in the way. I don't want to damage anything. Okay, we just make note of which one was where. I don't see where they are similar in any way, so we can't mix them up. So we just tuck these behind here out of the way nicely. Now, there's a sensor right here that fits right into the the thermostat housing, we're going to undo that as well. Okay, so that's nicely tucked out of the way. Okay. There's this this housing here that I would love to have out of the way, but we'll work with it for now. So our next move is to remove this hose. This is the lower radiator hose. So we're going to remove this. Hopefully it doesn't give us too much trouble, because these have a tendency literally to be welded to the housing. Okay, so hopefully that won't give us too much trouble. Okay, so we've actually broke. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So we've actually broken that loose. Now we're going to lose some coolant, and there are people who are going to say, oh, you should have done this and done that. Look, we don't have to be perfect. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, we might lose some coolant. And we lost none. Look at that. Okay, so here we're seeing inside here, and we're seeing some gunk. Okay, not good. Not good at all. So we're going to try our best to just clean this out. Okay, we'll clean that out in a bit. Okay, there is some coolant in the hose. Okay, now this, wow, this is a lot of gunk. Anyway, let's jump right in. There are, right here, there is a what seems to be some kind of a grounding bolt, and then we have one bolt there for the housing, and there should be another one in the back here. Okay, so let's jump right in and remove the grounding bolt first. Okay, so we're using a 10mm socket. That wasn't difficult at all. Let's go ahead and break these free. They're all 10mm bolts. Not on very tight. Now the one under here, I understand this might be a little bit difficult to get to. It's manageable. Okay guys, yeah, all right. Now what happened here is that we did not have the right tools. This bolt requires a swivel-headed socket or a universal joint connector, so that it can actually turn an angle. Okay, we didn't have that. So what I had to do, I had to remove the air box, the same two 10mm bolts, and that came right out, and that gave me the leverage that I needed to break the bolt free. There we go. So grab onto it. Okay, so here, folks, is the housing, thermostat housing. It's filthy. Not a good sign. Okay, so here's the thermostat right here. Now, we do not want to touch the surface here. We do not want to nick it. We do not want to damage it. Okay, so we want to be as far from there as possible, and that was pretty easy. Popped right out. Okay, so here we have the thermostat. Now, there's a way to test this. You boil a pot of water, and then just drop it in the container, and it should just spring open. This section here should just spring open. But looking at it, I can see corrosion around this section here. There shouldn't be any corrosion anywhere. There's no doubt in my mind that this thing is done for. We've gone ahead and we've cleaned up the head area best we can. We've cleaned up the housing as best we can. I could have done a little bit more, to be honest with you, but I'm lacking in the right tools. I don't have any sandpaper and I don't have any Scotch-Brite, so yeah, it is what it is. Anywho, here we have the new thermostat. So it's supposed to go in a particular way. Now, based on what I see with the old one, it's set in such a way that this beam is horizontal. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, this is an aftermarket, so it doesn't have that indication as to which one is up. It doesn't have this sweep hole here either, so I have no real indication. I just have to eyeball it. So I'm just going to make sure that this is horizontal. So that's horizontal and it fits nicely, it's flush. So we're going to go ahead now. We're going to put this on. We're just going to match it up a little bit and see how it looks before we commit. Okay. So we have a good surface. I can feel the gasket mating with this section here, which is the important section. Okay, so I can feel the rubber. It's not hitting metal directly, which is what we want. So let's go ahead and just run the bolts in finger tight. Trying to work in a way that you can see what I'm doing, which makes my life a little bit less than ideal. Okay, that's one. This one is going to be challenging, no doubt about it. Okay, we do not want to over tighten because this is aluminum and it will snap, it will crack, it will, you know. Now my research tells me that this is supposed to be 140 inch-pounds. I do not have a torque wrench at this time, but I'm pretty confident that what I've done there is sufficient. The other bolt for the ground needs to go in. We could go ahead and clean off a little bit here, okay, just so that we have a good mating surface. Okay. Good. So our next step is to get this hose back on. Okay. Next, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to reconnect the sensor here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and connect these. Now remember, these fit up here. So this one is the oval one, it goes there. This one is the round one, and it goes there. Okay. This bit goes up here, and we'll attach that when we put the air box back on. In the interest of time, I went ahead and put this air box back in place. Okay, so at this point, you know, we're looking around, we're making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be. All the hoses are back in place, all the clamps back in place, all the connectors back in place, and everything looks fine to me. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, I'm going to drop the battery back in, then we're going to top up the radiator, and then we see what happens. Okay, so we're going to be using just some Prestone antifreeze coolant for all vehicles. It's pre-mixed 50-50, so we don't need to add any water to this. So we've connected everything and we've started the car, and that's what we see. So we have a clamp there that's not holding the hose properly. So we're going to run out to the auto parts store and get another clamp and see if we can fix that problem. Okay guys, here's where we are. Okay, after having a look around the car, we realized that we actually also have a leak from the water pump. I've spoken with the owner, and he's saying, you know what, let's just pull the brake on this one. And so we're gonna, at this point, leave it as is, because if we have a minor leak here on the hose and a major leak on the water pump, we need to really analyze whether we want to get into fixing the water pump or just junking this thing. But one of the interesting things, guys, that, you know, I tell people is that the 6th generation Honda Accord is junk. Okay, from bumper to bumper, garbage. Transmission issues, power steering pump issues. I mean, left up to this car, Honda would have no reputation whatsoever. Okay, just my humble opinion, and I know I'm going to get flamed by you Honda boys, you fanboys in the comments below, but I don't care. The record speaks for itself, and you know, you might be able to get away with it if it's a manual, because then you don't have the transmission to deal with, but then you will have the, still have the water pump issues, still have the power steering pump issues. Garbage, total garbage. Anyway, you guys, thanks for watching. And remember, you guys, get out there, get the tools, get the interest, and let's go fix some cars.